Hilchas Schirus Perik Shvi. Kshem shemasna odem kol tnai sheyirtze b'mekach homemker. Is kach masna b'schirus. Just like a person can make a tnai when he sells something, so al derech when you're renting something, you could also make a tnai. Shas schirus mechira lizman kotzavu. Schirus is like a sale, but the only difference is a sale means a final sale. You're selling it completely. Mashenka schirus means you're selling it for a certain amount of time, but there's a certain kinyan. So since this maisa kinyan could be a latnai, just like a regular kinyan could be a latnai. So there is a kinyan. There's man kosev calls to be a latnai. Now v'chol shemukari b'nechosev mimker schiras yischira. So if you're a bardas, so maybe you could sell. So there is you can be masker. Mashenkin v'cheres sheite v'kotten which cannot sell. So there is can be masker. V'chei kol she'en limker, someone that is not able to sell is kach ein lisker. So normally if you can't sell, you can't be masker. Elim Kain, the only exception would be is im Elim Kain Yeshli Peres Bulvad Be'ese Akarka. So then there could be a hechitimtza of a reza seiche ve'ini mecher. A person could rent something out, but he can't sell, and the case is that he has Peres Bulvad Be'ese Akarka. So the Nesiva says pshat that b'chlal a person when he goes ahead and sells a karka, you cannot sell a davar shlei boleilim. So a person can't say, I'm going to sell you the Peiros Elon, because a Peiros Elon is a davar shlei boleilim. I could sell you the Elon leperesav. I could sell you the Elon leperesav, but then you own the Elon leperesav. If you own the Elon leperesav, you could also sell the Elon leperesav. Just like you own the Elon leperesav, you could sell it. But you could not sell the Peiros Elon. Now, when could a person only own the Peiros Elon? If a person, for example, sells an Elon, and he says, I'm selling you the Elon, except for the payers that the Elon will give out. So Yutaka can't sell, this is what the Nesiva says, you can't go ahead and sell payers of Elon, but there could be a chatimsa of a person owning the payers of this Elon, even though he doesn't own the Elon. How is that? Because he originally owned the Elon, and then he went ahead and sold the Elon. And he sold the Elon chutz mi peresav. So the payers, the future payers that are going to happen, is taka going to belong to the original owner, not because he bought the payers Elon, because he retained that right to the payers Elon. And that didn't, so there could be a hechatimsa of a person owning a kinyan of only payers, not the dover lip peresav, but only the payers. Now this kinyan that he has, only in the payers, not in the dover lip peresav, he could rent out. But he can't sell it, because lepel, you can't sell a davar shlei boleilam. He happens to own a davar shlei boleilam because he originally owned the whole thing, and he left with himself the davar shlei boleilam. But he can't sell it. So here you have it. That's what the Nesiva says pshat over here. That here you have a hechatimtza of something which you could rent and you can't sell. In other words, you own something of a davar shlei boleilam. And the reason why you own it is because you originally owned the whole thing, and now you could go and rent out what you own. But on the other hand, you cannot sell what you own. You can't sell what you own. Why can't you sell it? Because it's a davar shlei boleilam. You have to understand. So why can I rent it? Even though I can't sell it, but nevertheless I can rent it, even though it's a davar shlei boleilam. That would be pshat in this Rambam. Halacha beis. Hamasker bayis lechaveri l'shana. They made up that he's going to sell. He's renting it from a year, and lepel was nisabra shana. The year became an iber. So then nisabra l'secher. They made a deal for a year, and they gave a price for a year. So it's nisabra l'secher. Now hiskel l'chadoshim, they made up for months. It was per month. So then it's nisabra l'masker. So there was a ibra, a chodesh mu'uber. So memela, so he has to pay him per month. Now hiskel l'chadoshim vishon. He mentioned both months and a year. This says ben sha'amar le-dinner l'chedesh ne'masir dinner l'shana. He said, I'm going to give you, you'll pay a dinner per month, which means, he said both l'shenis. First he said dinner l'chedesh, and he also said shnei masir dinner l'shana. Or ben sha'amar le-shnei masir dinner l'shana, which is dinner b'chol chedesh. So that means there's a suffix if we say tfeis lashon rishon or tfeis lashon achrim. So the din is harei chodesh ha'ibur shel masker. There's karka is always becheskes ba'aleh kayemes. So the muhzik on the karka is the masker, the original owner. The question is, how much does the seicher have rights to this karka? So we're saying the seicher, there's a suffix whether or not in this rental is also included the 13th month, or is only included the 12th month. So Mela, since the masker is the muhzik on this 13th month, because it's his karka, and it's a question whether or not the seicher is entitled with the 12 dinner to the 13th month, So therefore, the Chodesh Ha'ibur belongs to the masker. Shakarka b'cheskes ba'aleh, ve'im b'tziyin dover miyad ba'lakarka, ele b'raya brura. So Mela, it becomes the maskers, is the 13th month is the maskers. And Nochmer, that Lamashal, so first of all, after 12 months, even though he paid him 12 dinner, Lepel, he can send them out, because Lepel, the masker, is the muzik. But let's say the Seicher remained the 13th month. So since Lepel, the masker is the muzik, so Be'emes, this karka was his, and the din was that the masker had a right to send away the Seicher. So therefore, the Seicher, even though he stayed there, he has to pay for it. Because you can't, the Seicher can say, listen, right now I already stayed there. Now the Shaila is, do I owe you money? So Mela will say, like there was a tfisa. We say, no, that since the karka was b'cheskes ba'aleh, and since Lepel, he had a right to send them out, so now the 13th month, the Seicher has to pay. That's the din. So, Harei HaChodesh Ha'ibur Shel Masker, and Memele, he has to pay him for a 13th month. Shakarka, b'cheskes ba'aleh, ve'matziyin dover miyad ba'lakarka, ele b'raya brura. V'chein, but if there's a dispute, how long was the rental? Balabai she'amal izman zeis karticha. I rented you for a certain amount of time. V'aseichei melei sacharti el istam el izman oruch. So in the Seicher is tiny, I rented it stam, and therefore you have to give me a 30-day notice, or you have to give me a 12-month notice, like we learned before. So again, the masker is tiny, I rented you for a certain time, I made up clearly a certain amount of time, and the time is up, and maybe you have to go out. And he's tiny, no, we didn't make, either we made up a longer time, or we didn't make up any time, so maybe you have to give me notice. I rented you for a certain amount of time. I didn't make up any time, so therefore you have to give me notice. Or he's timing the seicher that you gave me a longer time, is always ala seicher lahavi. The seicher, the chiv of a raya is on the seicher. And v'im lehevi, if the seicher doesn't bring a raya, is balabayis nish beheses. Balabayis nish beheses that lepel he didn't give it to him, or is he's timing that I have a right to be here. I have a right to be here for longer. The balabais is tiny. You don't have a right to be here. So the seicher has a taina against the balabais. So the balabais is nish beheses. Umeitzi min abayis, and he's moitzi the seicher min abayis. The pashtos, there's a chiv that the balabais has to be nish beheses, but on the other hand, lechura, the fact that he's moitzi min abayis is not totally in the balabais being nish beheses. The Lashon Haram is nish balabais nish beheses or meitzi min abayis, but lechura, the question is the meitzi min abayis totally in nish beheses? The pashtos not. Halacha Gimel. Haseicher she'omar nesati scharabayis neschafte. Now the seder is that ein schirus mishtalemes elu l'pseif. The seicher has to pay at the end of the zman schirus, depending on what they made up of the zman schirus is. So now if they rented him for a month, so the din is that he has to pay him per month, or even not only for a month. He rented him for a longer time, but the price was per month. So mainly he has to pay him per month at the end of the month. Now they have an argument whether the seicher paid or not. Is a seicher she'amar nasati schar habayis neschayav to pay? I already paid my rent. The owner is saying, no, I never got paid the rent. Now, ben shoysa schirus b'shtar ben shoysa be'edim. It's clear that there is a chi of rent, but the question is, did he pay his rent? Is im tove b'teich shleishim yom? We're talking about a rent that you normally have to pay at the end of 30 days. So the emphasis is the seicher really has no chiyuv to pay until the end of the 30 days. So for the seicher to claim that he paid during those 30 days, he's not neman, because mehechatesa, bepashtus, a person wouldn't pay during those 30 days. So therefore the becheskas is that he still owes the money, and the masker is telling I didn't get paid, so therefore he has to pay. Im tavi b'teich shleishim yom, if the masker is money from the seicher b'teich shleishim yom, is ala seicher lahavi raya, so the seicher has to prove that he paid the rent. Or if he can't prove that he paid the rent, is yitin, so he has to pay the rent. And v'yachrim, he can be machrim, al mishu lokach mimenu. A yitin olav b'dom mishnosam tchila, taina b'fnei atzmi v'yashbi. So he has to pay the rent, that's number one. And now he goes back, and either when he pays the rent, he's machrim al mishu lokach mimenu, that's one option. Or he'll pay the rent without being machrim, and then he'll go back to the balabayas, and he'll month for him that I gave you an extra month rent, I paid you already rent, now I paid you again, now it's I've nutayna. Whereas either he'll make the machrim while he's paying the balabayas, he's going to be machrim, someone that's taining from him, something that's not someone's taking something from him that's not true, or later on he'll pay him, and then later on he'll taina a new taina kilo a tiveya. He's a tiveya, and that person will be a kefer akel. So you have to swear Shavuos Esses. Nachmal. So oy yitain v'yachrim al mishalokach mimenu. That's one option. Oy yitain ol bedam mishnosan tchila taina b'fnei atzma v'yesh b'yases. He's going to come along and say, listen, I just paid you your rent, but I paid you before, so that money that I paid you before, you owe me back. That's talking about if he was Tavi during the 30 days. However, Tavi Amaska Lacher Shleshim Yem. If after the 30 days, which was the time of the rental, he was Tiver from him, Vafilu B'yem HaShleshim, not only Lacher Shleshim Yem, but even on the 30th day, on the last day, so which the Gemara says, the halacha is that Ovid Inish, that is Mishalim B'yema the Mishlam Zimne, a person pays on the last day, he doesn't have to wait till the next day. So then it's Allah Maskal Aviraya. So now the Seicher has an amonus to say that he paid, because it's normal for a Seicher to pay after the 30 days of Adar and even on the 30th day. Oh, so either the Maskal brings a raya that he didn't pay, or Shava HaSeicher Shekvarnosan Lisach Schari V'yifter. So, or the Seicher has to swear Shavuos Esses. In other words, the Masker is money by the Seicher of the money. The Seicher is standing I paid. So the Seicher has an amonus because it's already after the 30 days, or it's on the 30th day. So then either the Masker brings a raya that he didn't pay, or the Seicher doesn't pay, but the Seicher has to swear Shavuos Esses. V'chein im socher mimenu. This is talking about a normal situation where he was renting it per month. V'chein im socher mimenu pirush yitli aschar shana shana. It was clear that he's going to pay the rent every year, and v'tovei b'tei chashon, and he was teveya during the year. In other words, before the year was up. So it's the same thing. The seicher is tiny that he paid the rent, which he's supposed to pay yearly. He paid during the year. Is ala seicher laviraya. However, tovei la'achar hashana, if he paid him, if he was teveya after the year was up, or v'afilu b'yem tisha v'esrim be'el on the last day of the year, is Allah masker lahaviraya. So then the masker has to prove that he didn't pay. So the din is bekitzer. Normally the din is ameis mechaver el. So since the seicher is tiny I paid, the masker is tiny you didn't pay. So l'chura the seicher is naman. But when is the seicher naman? He's only naman in a time when it's normal for him to pay. Masha'inkin, if he's tiny, he paid in a time where a person wouldn't pay during that time. So then the seicher is not naman. So it's becheskas chiyuv, and the seicher is not naman to say that he paid because it's not regular for him to pay, and therefore he has to pay, or bring a raya that he paid. Halacha dalet hamasker bayis lechavere b'shtar le'eseshon. Someone that rents a house to someone with a shtar for 10 years. That says the pastor, the seicher has the shtar, and in that shtar it says that he has a right to be in this house for 10 years. He's renting the house for 10 years. There's no zman in the shtar. So Memela, see, we don't know when the 10 years began. Is I have a shtar that says I have a right to be here for 10 years, and the Vaila, I was only here for a year. You have a shtar that says you have a right to be there for 10 years, you were there already for 10 years. And Memela, your shtar doesn't mean anything, doesn't give you a right to be here. So again, it's Allah Seicher Lahavirayu. So again, this is the same principle. The masker is the muzik in the house. So Mamela, he's the muzik in the house. The Seicher is taining that he has a schus Schirus in this house. So he's a moitzi from the masker. So he has to prove that he has a right to be in the masker. Just like we had before. Benegea, if there was a question of 13 months or 12 months. The masker is the muzik in the house. And the Seicher is having a kinyan Schirus in this house. He's being moitzi from the masker. So over here also, the masker is taining that it's his house and you have no more rights of Schirus. And the Seicher is telling, no, I have another 9 years of Schirus. So the din is ala Seicher lahavi raya. The Seicher has to prove that he still has another 9 years of Schirus. Ve'im lehevi raya. If he doesn't bring a raya, is Yeshava hamasker hesses v'yitziyah. So the masker swears the Shavuos Esses because the Seicher is dochtaining that I have a right to be there, and v'yitziyah, and he should be moitzeh the Seicher. So here again the Lashon HaRambam is that first it says that Yeshava, the masker Hesses, and then it says v'yitzir. The question is if that's b'diuk. Halacha hei hasoicher pardas oisho yemashkin biyodi le'eseshonim v'yovish hapardas b'tei chazman. Now the case of mashkin means someone lent someone money. It's called mashkanta desuri. He lent him money, and the deal was that he's going to use his field for let's say 10 years, And every year he's going to deduct a tenth of the original money. So he lent him $1,000. He's going to use the field for 10 years, and every year it'll be for $100. And then at the end of the 10 years, the field goes back to the original owner, and the loan is paid. That's mashkanta de surah. That's one situation. And haseicher pardes is also the same situation. Whereas normally seicher pardes means you rent the pardes, and after each amount of time you go pay. Schirus ein mishtalames el lipseif, like we just learned. But over here it means haseicher pardes, you paid for the pardes beforehand, which is so to speak like a loan, and now you're going to use the pardes for all that time. So mainly you're obviously getting a better deal. You're getting a better deal. You gave the person the $1,000 for the pardes for 10 years. So it's being called a seicher pardes. So either you lent him money, $1,000, and he's paying you back by giving you 10 years of use of this field, and each year you deduct a tenth, or you rented the pardes for 10 years, you gave him the money for the 10 years, and now you're using the pardes for 10 years. But basically it's the same idea, that there was a loan, so to speak, and you're getting paid back by the loan by using this pardes. It's nachamol. Haseicher pardes, and you paid for the pardes. Oy shahoy mashkin biyodi le'eser shonim, and lepel v'yovish ha-pardes b'tei chazman. So the deal was that you're going to use the pardes for 10 years, and you're going to, and that's how you're going to pay up the loan. But lepel is yovish ha-pardes b'tei chazman, and the pardes is no longer here. So the din is yimochru eitzov. So you should go and sell the eitzim of the pardes that dried up. V'yilokech bem karka v'yechel peiresev ad seiv zman schirusei zman hamashkin. So you should go ahead and continue the deal, which means that the goof still belongs to the original owner, and you're just getting the payers. How's that? The goof already dried out. The answer is because from that dried out goof you bought karka, and now that karka is producing payers. And the goof, yeah. So that's what you should do. You should do that, and that's how you're going to get paid up what you're supposed to get paid up in 10 years. Now, there's another eitzah. The other eitzah is that the ilanas, the dried out trees or whatever, that should be given either to the, so it could be given to the seicher. In other words, the person that's the seicher is l'chura, he already used it for 5 years. So now these trees are also, let's say, worth a certain amount of money. So the original owner of the pardes could tell the seicher, listen, I really owed you 10 years of use of the pardes. Lepel, the pardes dried out. So now I'm going to give you the dried out things that should be yours. Instead of going and buying karka and you're going to use the pardes, take the eitzim that was dried out. So in other words, you had 5 years of use for the original money you gave me, and Lepel, you didn't pay up for all the money. So Mela, so the rest of the money I'm giving you the eitzim. That could be one option. There could be another option, that the original owner will take back the karka, the eitzim, the pardes, which has no more value, and now the original owner will pay what's left to the person that he borrowed the money from, or to the seicher. Whereas the original owner took $1,000 from the seicher, or he took it as a loan. But either way, it was really a loan. Be'emes, it was a loan. He took $1,000 for a loan. $500 of that was already paid up in the 5 years of use. And now there's 500 balance. So either the original owner could tell the person that lent him the money, take the rest of it for it, and that'll be the rest of your payment. That'll be your payment, rather than going through the payers, take that for the rest of the payers. Or the seicher could go ahead, which was the lender really, the person that has the mashkin, or the person that's the seicher, which is the lender, could say, listen, take back your pardes, and now pay me whatever is left over. Pay me the $500. So on that he says, "V'gufa ilonis sheyovshu einiktzu shneim asurim bem." The ilonis sheyovshu einiktzu, both of them is asur. In other words, you shouldn't make a deal that we should end the deal by either one of them taking the ilonis sheyiniktzu, and either it'll be the end of the deal because the seicher will take it, and memela, so that'll be how we'll pay it up, or that the masker will take it, or the original balakarka will take it and will pay money. Mishum ribis, of the malva and the leva. In other words, either way, there's going to be ribis. There's going to be a problem of ribis. Now the mice says, if lemashal, the original deal was that I'm giving you $1,000, and lepel, I'm going to use your field for 10 years. I used the field for 5 years. and now you're giving me the rest of the fields. You're giving me the rest of the fields. So Ma'amas, the first 5 years I was using it because I had the right to take. It was like one deal. There was a deal that I'm giving you $1,000 and you could use it for 10 years. Lepel used it for 5 years. And now we're saying, but now there's like another 5 years left. So instead of those 5 years, I'm giving you the Gufa the Dover. So Lepel, the Gufa Dover is like I'm paying you the loan. So what was going on with till now you were getting the payers? So it's like a certain level of ribis. It's not ribis mamish. But Lamashal, let's say this is going to be worth more than 5 years of payers. So the payers is going to end up that I got more than my original deal was. Why? Because I lent you the money. The deal was I should get 10 years of payers. Lepel, I ended up getting 5 years of payers, plus the Guf Hadover, plus the Guf Hadover, which is like it's not according to the original deal, and Lepel it's happening because of the money that I lent you. So it comes out a certain level of ribis. I'll then have said the other way. If I give you back, and now I want the money back, so Lepel, so it's Kila Neimer, I lent you $1,000. Now I was using your karka for 5 years because of those $1,000. The deal was I'm going to use your karka for 10 years. I used it for 5 years. And then at the end of those 5 years, I get $500 back. Now, why am I getting, L'chura, I should have maybe I'm getting more than that back. And Lepel, why am I getting it back? Because Lepel, right now, instead of having the 5 years of the payers, I'm getting $500 back. So somewhere or another, since I'm mixing in this deal, I don't have it so clear, but since I'm mixing in this deal, in other words, first the deal was the payers, and now I'm also getting the Gufa Dover. So therefore, there's a certain inyan of ribis here. It's not ribis mavish. The Raiva Tainus it doesn't see why enkan ribis ela hamalva aser mishuma a different thing. Kalya karna Tainus there's no ribis over here, and the Rambam is saying it is ribis. The vice is the gather of ribis over here is. Whereas the deal was, I'm giving you the money, and I'm going to get back the payers. Mashkanta the surah, I'm going to get back the payers through Schirus. But I'll call upon him, that was the deal. Now it's going to be like a half a deal. I got already back some of it through the payers. It was never like made up clearly each year is this amount of money. I got already back the payers. So now I got back the guf, and it's not an exact measurement. So Mamela, there's a certain level of ribis that's happening over here. Masha'enkin, if I continue having the payers, so that's the deal. The deal was I'm going to have payers for 10 years. The thing dried out, good. So the thing dried out. From that dried out thing, we bought karka, and then they would continue making payers. So if I say, since I'm continuing making payers, so therefore there's no reach of ribis. Masha'enkin, when I give you money back, or either the seicher is actually taking the gufa payers, or he's taking money now because he's giving back the karka, the ilanis to the original owner. So he's obviously going to take money. So you're mixing like money with the mashkanta, the surah. That's a problem of ribis. That's, I think, the pashto pshat. Halacha vov. Shtar schirus a shtar mashkin shekosa beishonim stam. It doesn't say how many years. It just says that you have a right to rent it for years, or you have a right to have this is a mashkin for you for years. Again, like we had before, I lent the money, and now he has a mashkanta the surah to use this karka for years. Doesn't say how many years. Bala Peres Eimer, Sholish, the Bala Peres says we made up 3 years. Or Bala Karka Eimer, the original only says Stein, we only made up for 2 years. And the Kodam Zeh HaSeicher Eyamalva, V'ochel HaPeres, and Lepel, so the Emes, the Karka B'cheskes Balekaim. So Mele, the masker or the mimashkin could really send out the person from the Karka. But Lepel, if that person went on, the Kodam Zeh HaSeicher Eyamalva, V'ochel HaPeres, so now that he already used Achal HaPeres, is that HaPeres b'cheskes eichleim achi yavi balakarka raya. At least the balakarka brings a raya. What exactly happened? So Lepel, since he was already teifus, so the tvisa helped. Now the Maisa is before we learned that when there was a suffix, if tfeis lashon rishon or tfeis lashon achrin, because he said a lashon of dina l'chaydish, and he said a din of shnei maser dina l'shana, so we said over there was a suffix, and memela the shnas. The Chodesh Eber is becheskas of the original owner, and even if he went ahead and stayed there a 13th month, he has to pay. So the Chur over there we're saying that since it's becheskas the original owner, the Seicher doesn't consider a teifus. He still has to pay for that 13th month. So the Chur over here is also the same thing. Since the Chur it's becheskas of the masker, because l'chura is becheskas baleh kayemes, and now he went ahead and stood in a place which is becheskas baleh, so l'chura, why doesn't he have to pay? Why is the Rambam saying here differently, that over here he doesn't have to pay? That's the Maggid Mishneh asks. That the Maggid Mishneh says, because over there you'll never be able to be mevarer. Because Lepel is a sveika de dinner. It's a sveika de dinner if it's tfeis lashon rishon or tfeis lashon achron. Mashenkin over here, it's not a sveika de dinner. It's a sveika b'metzias what happened. Memele, you're able to be mevarer. So Mele, it's possible that sof kol sof will be able to be mevarer that was taka belongs to the seicher. So therefore, you don't go and be moitzi from the seicher. In other words, when the seicher is teif for something, which is possible that the seicher will eventually be able to prove that it was taka his, you're not teifus from. Ochla seicher mamashkin sholishon. Lepel, the seicher was there for 3 years, and the kavish ashtar, the seicher is the one that had the star that he is seicher, and Lepel he put away the star, and va'amar, and he's timing lechom mishonim yeshli pedus. I have a right to be here for 5 years. But la karka emer lo sholish. You were there for 3 years, and that was your only right. So he was there already for 3 years. That's clear, and there was a star. But on the other end, we don't have the star in front of us. And the seicher is timing that I have a right to be here for 5 years, and the masker is timing, no, you only have a right to be here for 3 years. Is omru lehavi shtarcho. So they said to the seicher, bring the star, we'll be able to see what happened. In Omar, and he says, Omar Ovid, he says, I lost the star. So the din is a seicher nem. I lechura, the masker is the muhzik. We're saying the whole time that the masker is the muhzik, and over here the question is if it's 3 years or 5 years. So over here is the loikeach has the seicher. He was there already for 3 years. The din is that when a person finds himself in a karka for 3 years, he could taina, he bought it. So the male is, since the seicher was there for 3 years, and he could taina, he bought it. Lepel is taining that I have a right to be here for 5 years. So the male, since he's in a position where he could taina lukuchi biyodi, so therefore he's never to say they have a right to be here for 5 years. So Mele, since he has a migu, he could have said L'kuchi biyodi, so that entitles him to say that Schuri biyodi for 5 years. Halacha zak. Mi shehichnis peresav lebayis chaverei shalemi daite. Someone brought his peres into someone's house, shalemi daite. A shehito, or no, shalemi daite means he wasn't aware. All of a sudden he comes to his house and he realized that someone brought his peres into his house. Eshito, or he fooled him. In other words, he fooled him, he brought things into his house, and the person saw him bringing it to the house, then all of a sudden he leaves it there. In other words, there's a case where he brought it without the other person being aware of it, and he just finds himself, he sees that there's payers in his house, or that person saw him bringing it payers in the house, but he thought he's coming into the house to go out, and he's just taking it in order to go out with it. And now all of a sudden, so the din is Yeshua Balabayas Limker Le Mason Aperes. He's allowed to take some of those pears and sell it. In other words, he could get it out of the house. Something he has no right to put it in his house. And he could use some of those pears to pay the pelim to get it out of his house. That he should be deal that there's someone's pears in my house, that person put in my house, even though that person did an avla. But he doesn't want to be mafsid his money, so that's why it's a midas chsidis. Because he's not mechuyev. It's not normally you have to be meishav aveda. But over here, this person was a ma'abed midaite. In other words, he put it there midaite. It was an avla that he put in midaite. So therefore, midas chsidis is sheyedir lebezin v'yiskuru mimitzes dmeyam mokim mishum hoshev aveda lebaylam afal pisha asu shlei geigen. The person that brought it into your house did it shlei geigen. But nevertheless, the midas chsidis to go ahead and help him out, that you should take it out and put it in a place where it's a mokum shomer, and that person shouldn't lose these payers which he left in your house. Halacha ches hasoicher richayim mechaveri sheyitnulei esem so b'chol chedesh b'schare. He rented a richayim from someone, a mill, and he told him that 20 saw you'll have to be to grind for me. Every month, 20 saw you should grind for me. And Lepeil, the Hesher Bal Rechaim, the owner of the Rechaim, became rich. And now, he doesn't really grind anymore. He goes and buys from a bakery. So originally he used to grind his tfuah, and here he owned a mill. And he told the Bal Rechaim, for 20 saw, you have to grind for me. That's your rent. and for each month. And lepel, now he doesn't need it anymore. So the question is, how is he going to get paid rent? Is as a im yesh l'soicher chitim shetzarich litchines alatzmei. So really, the Baalei Rechaim is entitled that 20 saw of grinding that happens this Rechaim is for him. Now lepel, the soicher has 20 saw that he does for himself. Now if he wouldn't have this Rechaim, he would have to go somewhere else to grind it. So lepel, since 20 saw of grinding belongs to the Baalei Rechaim, so Mele, he has to pay for those 20 saw of grinding. In other words, whatever would cost him to go to somewhere else to grind it, so he has to pay the balabas. Or if, let's say, he's grinding for someone else, he's able to grind for someone else and get paid for it. So that also, that money goes to the balabas, because the balabas is entitled to 20 saw of grinding. Now, Lepel, the balabas doesn't have 20 saw to grind. He's not dealing with it anymore. But Lepel, you're grinding 20 saw over here. So the money that these 20 saw of grinding is worth, that's what that comes to me. That belongs to the balabas, to the owner of the masker. That's the nachamo. Hasecher Rechaim Mechaveri, someone that rents a Rechaim, sheyitchon le'esem saw b'chol chedesh b'schari. That the payment of the rent will be that he will grind for him 20 saw every month. And lepel behasher Baalei Rechaim, v'arein etzarich litchon sham. So the Baalei Rechaim is not bringing him any 20 saw in order to grind. Now the question is, how is he going to get paid? Is im yesh l'seicher chitim shetzarich litchon eisen latzmei. The seicher has his own chitim, so he's grinding 20 saw of chitim in this Rechaim. Oila acherim, where he's grinding for other people, he's being hired, and lepel he's grinding in other people. So since lepel 20 saw of grinding, he owes the balabas. So the mele keilu, he has to pay for that grinding. In other words, the 20 saw that either the 20 saw he's grinding for someone else and getting paid, or even the 20 saw that he's grinding for himself, and so he has to pay for that. He has to pay for the Dmei Tchinas Esem Saw. Shazumi das Demi. In other words, Lepel, he would have to pay for it. So the Baalei Rechaim is entitled to get paid. And Lepel, since you are using the Rechaim to grind 20 saw, either you're getting money for it or you're doing it for yourself, but either way, you're gaining from this Rechaim of 20 saw of grinding, and 20 saw of grinding is owed to the Baalei Rechaim. However, Vim Einle, if he doesn't have 20 saw, he doesn't have a 20 saw to give him, because he's not using it for so much. Is ainly dom, I don't have any money, and I'm willing to be teichen for you as we made up. If you don't need all 20, if you don't need the 20, you don't need me to grind for you, is bring me wheat and I'll grind it for you, and then you'll be able to sell the flour to someone else. In other words, I'm willing to provide you with the service that we made up. But on the other hand, I have no money to give you. In other words, if I'm going to grind for myself, so that money that I'm making from grinding for myself, or I'm saving from grinding for myself, I have to give you. If I'm not grinding for myself so much, for me to go ahead and pay you the amount of money that would cost to grind 20, so I don't have that money. So Mela, I'm not obligated to pay you that money.